Alright folks, gather round because tonight we're diving headfirst into a mystery that'll make your head spin faster than a politician trying to explain a campaign donation. We're talking about the case of the missing money. And not just any missing money, mind you, but a whopping $2.3 trillion. That's trillion with a T vanished from the Pentagon's coffers. Now I know what you're thinking. John, that's a lot of cash, like enough to buy a small country or a really big yacht. You're not wrong, it's an amount so staggering it's almost impossible to comprehend. To put it into perspective, if you stacked that much money in $100 bills, it would reach 2/3 of the way to the moon. Think about that the next time you lose a 20 in your couch cushions. But here's the kicker. This wasn't some gradual disappearing act. This was like a magician making an elephant vanish on live TV. Poof, gone. So, September 10th, 2001. What a difference a day makes, right? The world was on the brink of something huge, but no one knew what. The stock market was doing its usual dance, Britney and Justin were still a thing, and the biggest concern for most Americans was whether their dial-up internet would connect on the first try. Meanwhile, deep in the labyrinthine halls of the Pentagon, something strange was afoot. Donald Rumsfeld, then Secretary of Defense, was about to make an announcement that would send shockwaves through the financial world and beyond. He was going to announce that the Pentagon couldn't account for $2.3 trillion. That's right, folks, trillions, with a T. Now, you might think that an announcement of this magnitude would involve flashing red lights, blaring sirens, and maybe even a fainting intern or two. But no, this bombshell was dropped with all the fanfare of a grocery store announcing a sale on mayonnaise. Donald Rumsfeld, the Pentagon's accounting system is, shall we say, a bit broken. A mind-boggling sum of money has seemingly vanished into thin air. And then everyone went about their business as if nothing had happened. It was like telling your dog they ate your homework and them just wagging their tail and asking for a belly rub. Here's the thing about the Pentagon's accounting system. It's about as organized as a teenager's bedroom after a sleepover. We're talking mountains of paperwork, outdated computer systems, and enough bureaucratic red tape to stretch from DC to the moon and back. You see, the Pentagon operates on a cash-based accounting system. That means they basically keep track of their spending by stuffing receipts in shoeboxes. Okay, I'm exaggerating a bit, but not by much. This antiquated system makes it incredibly difficult to track where money is going, let alone find it once it's gone missing. And when you're dealing with trillions of dollars, that's a problem. A big, fat, hairy problem. Well, that's the million-dollar question, or should I say, the trillion-dollar question. There are a few theories floating around, each more mind-boggling than the last. The first, and perhaps most likely explanation, is good old-fashioned bureaucratic incompetence. Financial expert, imagine a system so bogged down in paperwork, so riddled with inefficiencies that billions, even trillions of dollars could simply slip through the cracks. It sounds crazy, but when you're dealing with an organization as massive and complex as the Pentagon, it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. Think about it, misplaced documents, inaccurate data entry, funds allocated to the wrong department. All of these things can add up, especially when there's little to no oversight. It's like trying to balance your checkbook after a weekend in Vegas. You know money's missing, you just can't quite figure out where it all went. But hold on a second, because bureaucratic incompetence, while a convenient scapegoat, doesn't quite explain everything. After all, we're not talking about a few misplaced dollars here. We're talking about trillions. That's enough to raise eyebrows, even in Washington. Defense analyst, this leads us to the second theory, misappropriation and fraud. Now, I'm not saying that someone walked out of the Pentagon with a wheelbarrow full of cash, although with that much money missing, it's not entirely out of the question. But where there's money, there's always the potential for corruption. And the Pentagon, with its vast budget and labyrinthine bureaucracy, is a prime target for those looking to line their own pockets. Think about it, inflated contracts, kickbacks, phantom employees, the possibilities for financial shenanigans are practically endless. Defense analyst. And let's not forget about the good old-fashioned glitch in the system that just happens to redirect funds to an offshore account. It's the kind of stuff that would make Bernie Madoff blush. Now, for those of you who like your conspiracies extra crispy, we have a third theory: black budget projects. These are the top-secret hush-hush operations that the government doesn't want you to know about. Think Area 51, experimental weapons programs, and maybe even a few alien autopsies thrown in for good measure. Conspiracy theorist. The theory goes that the missing trillions were funneled into these clandestine programs, hidden from public scrutiny and congressional oversight. And let's be honest, who's gonna ask questions about a few $1 trillion here and there when you're talking about national security? It's the perfect cover for financial shenanigans. Conspiracy theorist. Of course, proving this theory is about as easy as getting a straight answer from a politician. These black budget programs are so secretive that even their existence is often denied. But hey, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Conspiracy theorist. And in the case of the Pentagon's missing trillions, there's enough smoke to make Cheech and Chong jealous. Section 8. Accountability. What accountability? Now you might think that the revelation that the Pentagon had misplaced a sum of money roughly equivalent to the GDP of Italy would spark outrage, investigations, maybe even a few perp walks. But you'd be wrong. The response to Rumsfeld's announcement was underwhelming, to say the least. Sure, there were a few raised eyebrows and some stern words from lawmakers, but for the most part it was business as usual in Washington. The missing trillions became just another unsolved mystery, lost in the shuffle of partisan bickering and the 24-hour news cycle. It's enough to make you wonder, if the Pentagon can't keep track of trillions of dollars, what hope is there for the rest of us? Is this just the cost of doing business in a country with a military budget larger than the next 10 countries combined? And perhaps more importantly, where did all that money go? Section 9. The aftermath and the never-ending story. The years following Rumsfeld's bombshell announcement saw a flurry of activity, at least on paper. Congress passed legislation, committees were formed, and audits were launched. It seemed like everyone was finally taking the issue of Pentagon accounting seriously. But despite all the sound and fury, very little actually changed. The Pentagon, with its sprawling bureaucracy and ingrained resistance to oversight, proved to be a formidable opponent. Audits were delayed, reports were buried, and the missing trillions remained elusive.
In 2016, the Pentagon finally achieved the seemingly impossible. It passed an audit. But before you break out the champagne and confetti, there's a catch. The audit only covered a portion of the Pentagon's vast budget, and even then, it found serious deficiencies in its accounting practices. In other words, it was a small step in the right direction, but the road to true accountability remained long and winding.
Section 10. Can we fix this thing? The Pentagon's inability to account for trillions of dollars is a symptom of a much larger problem, a lack of transparency and accountability in government spending. When an organization as large and powerful as the Pentagon can misplace trillions of dollars without consequence, it erodes public trust and undermines the very principles of democracy. So what can be done? Well, for starters, we need to demand better. We need to hold our elected officials accountable for ensuring that taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely and responsibly. We need to push for greater transparency in government accounting, making it easier to track how our money is being used. We also need to address the culture of secrecy that pervades the Pentagon and other government agencies. Black budgets and clandestine operations may be necessary in some cases, but they should never be used as a shield to hide waste, fraud, or abuse. Section 11. Trust, earned, not given. The mystery of the Pentagon's missing trillions is a stark reminder that even in a democracy, power without accountability is a recipe for disaster. It's a story about bureaucratic incompetence, potential corruption, and a system that seems designed to obfuscate rather than illuminate. But perhaps most importantly, it's a story about trust. The trust that citizens place in their government to be responsible stewards of their hard-earned money. The trust that we all place in our institutions to act with integrity and transparency. And when that trust is broken, it's not easily repaired. It takes time, effort, and a genuine commitment to change. The Pentagon's missing trillions may remain a mystery, but the need for greater accountability and transparency in government spending is crystal clear. Because when it comes to our tax dollars, we deserve to know where they're going, and we deserve to know that they're being used responsibly. And that, my friends, is no laughing matter.